What's going on, new gamers? Today we're going to be jumping into a bit more Gotham Knights, and I'll be covering what I believe is the best Nightwing build if you're tackling the hardest difficulty. So if you want to jump into a Nightwing build that will carry you through any content, then stay tuned. That's coming up next. Welcome back everybody. Today we're going to be going over a little bit more Gotham Knights, and I'm going to be showing a Nightwing build that I feel is the best well-rounded build in the game. This provides a ridiculous amount of survivability, you can do crazy good damage, and it's just a lot of fun to play. Nightwing, funnily enough, not only is the best buffer in the game, but also one of the best for range, which I only found out when I started mucking around with his builds. So we're going to take full advantage of that and spec him out accordingly. Now, if you can see in the background here, we're going to be taking on the toughest content, and then we're finding ourselves some very high difficulty crimes. This is the places where they're going to have the most health, they're going to be the most troublesome, and it's the best place to test out your builds. This Nightwing build does not struggle at all on this type of content. In fact, it makes it seem like it's on normal mode. You don't have any issues with your health, you're able to regen it at will, and you're able to dish out just a ridiculous amount of damage, whether it be from your skills, jumping in with some high crit damage with your melee, or going to tan and doing some great crowd control and damage with your ranged ice darts. Believe it or not, even though you would think Robin from his kit is the best overall for elemental, it's actually probably Nightwing that's the best to apply it overall, for the sheer fact that on one of his upgrades, his darts turn into 3 shots as opposed to 1. This allows you to apply elemental effects very easy from range, and because we're using Cryogenic, when it breaks, you're able to get that massive burst damage as soon as they're out of that encasing. Ice, in my opinion, is by far the best element, and it makes this character ridiculously well rounded, whether you need survivability, him to be hard hitting, or just some crowd control because there's too many ads. This guy will work perfect solo or in a group. Right, so you've seen what this guy can do, but what exactly is his gear setup? So for the suit, the easiest one you can put on if you want pure survivability, no issues whatsoever, you just want to be able to tank through anything, is the reinforced suit. This is probably my hands down go-to favourite suit in the game, just for how versatile and easy it is to use. You're going to stack this up with 3 healths, it's going to give you a big chunky health pool, and then the best thing that this comes with is the TKO heal. Knocking out an enemy regenerates health over time. This means every time you knock down an enemy, every time you defeat one, you're going to get a nice chunky bit of health regen going on. This keeps you alive, and what we've got going on in that kit as well as this means that you've got 2 lots of health coming back at all times. This makes you pretty much unbeatable, to be perfectly honest. Final Resolve increases defense for a short duration when your health is low. This is your uh-oh moment if you needed to use a health pack, which you probably never will, I haven't, then this is going to keep you around in order to be able to use it. And Perfect Critical increases your critical damage for a short duration after performing a perfect evade. The last one is probably only going to be used on those single big targets or elites, but a lot of times you're overwhelmed in this and don't get a chance for this one to come into play. If you want to be able to use more abilities, then you would swap this one out and you would go straight down here to the Momentum ability suit, which again will allow you to be completely unstoppable, but in a different kind of way. So this one's going to instantly grant maximum momentum when your health is low. That means that Nightwing's going to have 5 bars pop straight away as soon as he goes under halfway health, and you'll be able to get them back because on one of our other items we've got a way of getting health back. So if you want to be able to use more skills but you don't want to be quite as tanky but you still get a load of health regen, then this one works out ideal. TKO Momentum, knocking out an enemy increases momentum build up for a short duration, and Knockout Shell, using an ability, increases armor for a short duration. This one's if you want to be able to ability spam, but not be quite as tanky, whereas the reinforced one is just the easiest one to use to just make sure you kind of survive any content without any issues. Going over to the melee, and we've got the high abilities as Screamer Sticks. Again, you're going to chuck on crit damage with these, 3 lots of that is going to mean you've got really high crit chance and really high crit damage. Heals the wearer and increases base damage after using an ability. Now, every time you use an ability, you're going to get a big chunky bit of health back. Alongside the regen you've got going on with your reinforced armor, means that you are, like I said, very much a tank that can dish out the beats as you go. Knockout momentum, knocking out an enemy with a momentum ability increases momentum build up for a short duration. And last but definitely not least, my favourite thing on this character is going to be his ranged cryogenic darts. These, I don't see many people using these, but in my opinion, they're the best thing you can put on Nightwing by an absolute mile. These provide a lot of damage, but not because you're going the crit path, because you're trying to build up that cryo status, and then when you burst them out of that freeze effect, you can get massive amounts of damage. It also kind of scales off the enemy's health, so the more players you're playing with and the tougher the content, the more damage you're going to do to those enemies once it does burst. So Counter Strike Momentum instantly grants momentum after knocking out an enemy with a perfect attack. Knockout Momentum, knocking out an enemy with a momentum ability increases momentum build up for a short duration. And Effect Offense, knocking out an enemy increases elemental effect and elemental effect resistance for a short duration. This works ridiculously well. I completely forgot to say, you're going to want 3 lots of increased elemental effect. The reason you're doing this, these aren't around just so you can get all of your crit damage up. They're not designed for crit damage, they're designed for building up that elemental effect, and because it's ice, it works amazing. Honestly, Nightwing, as soon as you upgrade him to be able to shoot out 3 darts, is able to apply these effects much better than pretty much anyone in the game, unless they're using an ability. For example, if you're using Red Hood and continually shooting. But just as standard, just for your long ranged, this guy is hands down probably the best. Now jumping over to his abilities, you will be able to pick up all of these if you've gone around doing everything in the game, doing all of the bonus content, the side quests and such, all of the collectibles, but these are the ones you're going to want to put in if you've only got up to 40. I'm not going to go over all of them, but what you are going to want is the fact that you've got your extra crit damage, popping down to here, then you've got a nice little bit of extra damage to your foes if you press down. Of course you've got more crit chance just built in first tree, which makes this ideal, and you're going to be leaping back and forth against opponents by doing your long range heavies and such. Over to this skill tree, and you know that Nightwing gets more momentum than any other character and gets that extra bar, which makes him very versatile and able to spam his abilities very often. Finally, on that acrobat tree, he's also able to get a little bit of health back when he's using these abilities. Hand in hand with what we've got going on in our suit and with our weapon makes this ideal and makes him about as survivable as it can be. Another one of note, especially if you enjoy playing with people, is going to be the passive skills increasing your damage, crit chance, defense, momentum regeneration and ultimate cooldown, sharing them by 50% for everyone you're playing with. And of course, hand in hand to help himself out, any character you play with buffs Nightwing's damage accordingly. Batgirl will help his melee, Red Hood will help his ranged and Robin will help his stealth, all by 15% each. Lastly, on the pack leader tree, like I said, his darts are ridiculously good. Make sure you use them very often. I never ever manually aim these, you probably could if you want to, but I find just tapping that Y button works out much better. Now when you hit them, you're going to knock down their defences by 10%, you're already able to knock down their defences by pressing the scan button. This is kind of just the icing on the cake, and like I said, just over here, Nightwing shoots 3 darts at once instead of 1, allowing you to build up that ice encasing very fast, probably even faster than you should do. With his ultimate ability, if you need it and you're in distress, bop this down on the floor, the nest is going to come down, you are going to be in a bubble dome that makes you nigh on unstoppable. It doesn't stop bullets from the outside, but you do get a bit of regen going on and you've got a nice bit of defense whilst you're in there. Perfect for yourself or for a group if they're in trouble. Now going over his abilities that you'll be using the most often, just for a nice easy line effect just here, you're going to be using that elemental shockwave. This is what I found I captured most of my enemies with, and for 1 bar this one works out really well for cost efficiency and overall damage. If you find yourself in amongst just absolutely loads of enemies, then this one can also work out well, and that's Whirlwind. Although we haven't got any elemental effect going off with this, it does do quite a bit of damage, not too bad with the crit, and it can dwindle a lot of the enemy's health really well in order to get them down with the next attack. If you need to help your team out at all, then this one is going to be ideal, Bright Night. Not only is it going to stun all of the enemies around you, it's also going to generate 1 momentum segment for everyone in your team. So this is really nice in co-op, but perfect if you're going to be using this character for that heroic assault 4-player mode. And last but definitely not least, the one that I've only just started using that I now think is amazing, and that's going to be your speed boost. Nightwing gets a speed boost, allowing him to move and fight faster, whilst gaining more momentum the further he travels to hit an enemy. Perfect with this build. I found that what I tend to do, activate this, I get an extra bit of damage because of my ability patterns, and then after that I can go straight in and start shooting my ranged cryo. This just makes anything that I'm aiming at pretty much become frozen straight away, and from there I can choose to either do an ability on them or go in with a massive long range melee that's going to do a lot of damage. This one turns you into a somewhat gunfighter and makes him very well rounded and very fun to play. Well, you gamers, hopefully that's helped a few of you out. I have really enjoyed playing with this build, and it's probably been my most versatile and fun one that I've played in the game so far. But yeah, let me know what you think. As always, for all things gaming, for all things Xbox, take care. I'll see you on the next day.